Hello and welcome to Sports Today 5 at 5. And today is not the very good best day to tell you what's been transpiring. First and foremost, Mohammed Siraj heaped a lot of racial abuse. And I don't know if I should say certain words here, but Mohammed Siraj and Jasprit Bumrah both being subjected to a lot of racial taunts. I will actually tell you because I've spoken to a lot of spectators. We will, after 5 at 5, do not go anywhere, because once I finish the five news points, I will be joined by Norman Kochanek from Australia, who had heard what the spectators were saying. I will be joined by Deep Dasgupta to give us perspective. So we will have a proper show on this, and Ridhima Pathak will also join us to host it for us. So first things first, Mohammed Siraj was racially abused. He was called a big monkey. He was called wanker, and he was called, his parentage was questioned. Let's leave it at that. And this was from a whole section for a period. This continued because this section of the crowd, I am told, was totally inebriated and drunk. And Jasprit Bumrah, his name was being broken down and he was literally abused as bum rash. So bum rash, that's what he was being called by a section of the Aussie supporters continuously for a while. So the question arises, what was the security doing at that point in time? Why were those people not thrown out of the ground with immediate effect, and their, if anybody was a member, or their details taken, and why should they not be prosecuted by the law enforcement agencies, just like if they violate someone on the street and heap racial abuse on them? I will get Norman Kochanek to give you the details, but this is it. We broke this on Sports Today around 3 p.m. because that's when the formal complaint was submitted to match referee David Boone by the Indian team authorities. Ajinkya Rahane and the players kept sort of complained to the on-field umpires. Thereafter, the security officials got involved. ICC has been notified. The match referee has been formally communicated that this is not going to be tolerated by the Indian team. That's number one. Number two, a lot of you have asked me an update on Rishabh Pant. Rishabh Pant was taken for scans, and what the scans reveal, very good for India, scans do not reveal a fracture. The scans do not reveal a fracture as far as Rishabh Pant is concerned. So I'm told that if India direly needs Rishabh Pant to bat on the fifth day, he will be available to do so for India. So Rishabh Pant fracture has been ruled out by the scans, can possibly bat on day 5 for India. So that's a piece of good news. Now to the bad news. The bad news is Ravindra Jadeja has a clear dislocation on his left thumb, possibly fracture, which can rule him out of the series. And Ravindra Jadeja is in serious pain. His left thumb dislocation and possible fracture is what I'm told. So Ravindra Jadeja will not be available for Team India. And that is a massive, massive, massive blow, because he could well have been the player of the series for India if you take the white ball formats and the red ball formats. He's been in stellar form, has contributed with both bat and ball. So clearly the Ravindra Jadeja availability is now out of the question as far as the team is concerned. So they will be reduced to 4 bowlers, but Jadeja on a day 4 pitch could have been a terror for Australia. So yet again, India will have to dig deep. But this is a very difficult loss to mitigate. So that's the Ravindra Jadeja update that I'm getting you. Number 4, Team India handed the test match to Australia on a platter. Ricky Ponting and a number of former players have questioned Cheteshwar Pujara's intent. We have done so as well. Pujara is a great batsman, no doubt. But as Deep Dasgupta said on Sports Today, game awareness, when he knew very well that the new ball was coming, to play that many number of dot balls, 176 ball, 50 with a strike rate of 25 when the new ball was round the corner, you got to say that was too slow. And you've got to question the lack of intent. Great player, but great players need to adapt better. And that wasn't done. If you compare with Manas Labuschagne, you will know what I mean. Can India make a comeback in this test match? Herculean ask. Last one. What will Team India do about this racial complaint? They are now waiting for directives from the BCCI. Cricket Australia has been notified. ICC has been notified. Match referee David Boone has been notified. So we will wait and see what happens. Chances are this matter has not yet been sorted out. Chances are this will go quite a bit, because this is not something that one should take lying down. Dignity and respect cannot be flouted on the sporting field, and the gentleman's game cannot be violated. So Rishabh Pant, good news, he should be available to bat. Ravindra Jadeja, bad news, because he is clearly out with a dislocation and possible fracture. Mohammed Siraj, Jasprit Bumrah abused. Siraj heaped a lot of racial abuse in Sydney. That's all I have for you at 5 at 5. Do not go anywhere, because I'll get my friend Deep Das Gupta in, Norman Kochanek in, Ridhima will also join us. Pragyan should also join us. There's Deep. There's Deep joining us from the beaches of Goa. Norman Kochanek from his house in Sydney. Welcome both. To you, Norman, you were there. Tell my viewers, is this true that these guys were being racially abused? The abuse that I just mentioned, I've got my friend Rajarshi, we've got Pragyan, so it's a full house on sports today. Norman, first to you, exactly what transpired at the ground?
Okay, we must remember this is over 2 days. It not just specifically what happened today. It was also what's transpired yesterday. There were incidents with Bumrah on both ends when he was a fine leg at both the Randwick or the Paddington ends. But the incident today, which was most significant, it appears, was with Siraj at the Randwick end of the ground. He was down at fine leg. It is, I believe that the alleged comments were quite racially driven, it appears. They certainly were, at the very least, abusive and insulting. That's for sure. They were around his motherhood, I think you mentioned before, around the name, not so much of Siraj's name, but more Bumrah's name. There was issues around the word wanker was used. There were certain issues around his so-called big monkey or words to that effect. The issue, I'll bring it back a step for a moment. This ground only had 10,000 people, say it, 9,000 yesterday and 8,000 on day one. When someone makes a noise, you can hear it. It reverberates quite a long way. I was situated at the Barongal stand, which is towards the Randwick end of the ground. I was also in the members stand more today and the media sections down below. But it was very clear that you could hear crystal clear what people were saying, and in particular the players. There were a number of girls that were actually in corporate boxes in the members stand today and yesterday that would call out actually niceties, try to get the attention of Bumrah on the boundary. And that, I think, would have brought the attention of a lot of the males as well, that brought up some very racially driven comments. But again, it's alleged. I can't say with certainty what certain people were saying. They certainly were insulting, if not
Norman, why didn't the security act? I mean, if
it's a good question. I don't know why. I don't know why. There was nothing.
Why was no action taken? Why was no action taken is what I want to know, Norman. Rajarshi, if you can, I might have some internet issues. You might need to take over the show. But Norman, my question to you is, why wasn't any action taken against these perpetrators?
Well, it's a very good question, because there certainly was sufficient security around the ground. They're well dispersed. Not only are there security, there was a great deal of police officers and so-called COVID-19 inspectors. There were people in official positions spread all over the ground. Actually, quite substantial numbers because of the COVID restrictions with masks being worn. People were very often being interdicted by police and security as to wearing masks. So the very fact some of these people who were calling out names clearly weren't wearing a mask at that moment. I would imagine they would have their masks down to be more audible. So that would have been a second breach. So it is particularly strange because they're meant to be there very heavily for people not wearing masks, let alone what they say. So I'm quite shocked, to be honest with you, that nobody actually picked it up earlier. And the fact that it was brought to the attention through the Indian management was rather incredible. I believe also one of the Indian officials was next to Bumrah in particular when things were being said, and he was there to try to block or divert. I'm not sure what his role was, but he was also there at certain stages. So there were a lot of incidents that happened throughout the 2 days. I think Siraj was probably the most significant set of abuse that he would have copped, but I do think that Bumrah has quite a few that were leveled his way as well.
Okay. Deep Das Gupta, Pragyan Ojha. Deep, to you first, then to Pragyan, and then to Rajarshi. Straight away, Deep, take this. How can this be permitted? Michael Holding, all of you remember, on the one hand, we see what is happening in the United States. On the other hand, we see what's happening on the sporting field in Australia. Is this our world, Deep?
Well, definitely this is not our world. I can understand. I mean, listen, you can ask Pragyan or any cricketer who's toured Australia before that you get to hear a lot of abusive language, which is fine. The use of the word wanker or uh, whatever MF and all that. That's understandable. You give it because you know that you're going to cop a bit of that. You know that you'll hear a bit of that. But nothing justifies racial slurs. You cannot justify. I don't care how drunk they are, uh, under the influence of alcohol. You cannot justify that, and that has to stop. Because the other important thing that before every game under ICC, there is a huge thing that is announced in the crowd through the PA system about racism, about slurs, and you're not supposed to do that. And I tell you what, I don't mind being abused because people in the past have had that, and anyone in Australia, you know that if you're standing in the boundary line, you will cope a bit of that, but uh, but nothing justifies racial slurs. Nothing.
Pragyan Oja?
Yes,
Pragyan? Yeah.
I'll just tell you, we were just discussing, me and Rajashri were discussing one incident that happened in India. Some of our Indian crowd, they were just trying to have fun of irritate Mitchell Johnson. And what happened? How did the security and the police reacted to that? They caught hold of those guys and they threw them out of the stadium, and they were beaten. See, that's how we deal with things. But when I can understand, as Deepai said, you can we will in men's cricket, it's always like, when once you get aggressive, there are few words that a lot of cricketers they exchange. In any sports they do, but that doesn't give anybody a right to abuse someone racially. And whatever has happened recently, as you said, Michael Holding, he got that award for that speech that he had delivered during the England West Indies Test match. We could see that pain that they were going through all these years. It came out of his mouth. We could understand, the depth of it. After all that, now we see this happening in Australia, which is, I don't think this should be taken lightly. I think serious of action should be taken because, as Deep Bhai, we all know, once you enter the ground, there is a huge announcement that you have to respect players. You cannot abuse them racially, or you cannot cross that line. And apart from that, Australia, I don't know why they did that.
Okay. Rajesh?
Boria, could I say one more point
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah.
We must hark back not long ago to the Adani mine protest where those two gentlemen were out in the middle of the field with those banners. It took the security that day an age to actually come on the field and take them off the field. I was quite shocked. I was there, as you know, and they did not move for minutes and minutes beyond the time. That was actually poorly handled as well. That admittedly they were eventually taken off. That there's a certain inertia with the security I'm witnessing, and this is a great example of it.
Okay, Rajesh, he's now made another point that clearly the security at the stadium, if people can't be taken out, if drunken, inebriated jerks are allowed to heap racial abuse at the players for days on end, he said 2 days, now in a row. Your thoughts on this? How is this acceptable? How can you expect people to be subjected to this and their dignity violated? What should the BCCI do? How should Cricket Australia react? Your thoughts?
This is a huge test for Cricket Australia, Boria, because remember, these are tough times. India touring Australia. This is more than anything else. It's a series of goodwill, right? We've gone there. We trust Australia for their hospitality, their arrangements, their security arrangements, and this is not even a fully packed stadium, by the way. Pragyan and I were discussing of this one instance. Boria, you would have seen most of your cricket from the press box. You would have seen them in the stands. But I recollect a few instances where you come to India, players, even if there is banter, uncouth banter, the rest of the crowd that takes care of it. The police immediately step in, make sure that you're not insulting foreign cricketers. And this has gone far beyond that. What Cricket Australia should do is take immediate action. They should have thrown those guys out. They know who those perpetrators are. Ban them. I don't know what Cricket Australia's logistical ban periods are. Ban them for the rest of the Test match. Ban them for the rest of the year. BCCI should take it up strongly with the ICC and make a massive example out of it. You cannot tolerate racial abuse. And in 2021, after everything that has happened, India have gone to tour. Here is a young bowler bowling his heart out for his country. Absolutely shameful. This is the pits of bad behavior, Warrior.
Norman, the question I want to ask you is, when the IPL wasn't there in 2008, we had Monkeygate. I can understand. But post that, look at the amount of love and respect that a David Warner gets in India. He's adored. I mean, since IPL, all these people played together. The David Warner says, when Natarajan played, he publicly tweeted his great affection that he's come here because of Sunrisers Hyderabad. Steven Smith plays for an Indian franchise. All these guys play. So among the players, there is tremendous amount of respect. So one would expect that to flow among the crowd as well. That in a post-IPL age, where is this racial phobia coming from? How do you explain this? This is absolutely unacceptable and unreal for me. Norman.
Well, I'll just take you quickly to one point that you brought up, which is very relevant. Look, the fact is it has improved dramatically. The relationship between Australia and India has been magnificent. You mentioned Warner, Smith and the like. But the state of this game, Australia were under the pump. They wanted to make sure that India didn't win. And you could even sense in the crowd a certain amount of element of kill mentality. They wanted to win this. The short balls that occurred when Punt was hit, Jadeja was hit. Earlier on in the series with Shami, there's a bit more intent from the Australian bowlers, and you could hear the crowd rise to that. And Siraj was certainly not quiet. He did give a fair bit of, up and shit when he was on the field with the likes when Warner and Pekoski got out. Obviously, Siraj was very happy to get the wicket. But when he made his way back to the final leg, that's when it flared up. Clearly, the crowd were incited already, and Siraj he's quite a strong gentleman. He's quite upfront and has a certain amount of get up and go. I think that was an added to it. It wasn't his fault, of course, but I can't understand it at all. It was quite disturbing, and I guess because people could be heard clearer than normal, maybe they had more guts to do it. I don't know, but it's disturbing, and it wasn't just today.
Okay, Pragyan, Deep, both of you, and before I go to Rajesh again, Pragyan, if what Norman is saying is right, that it could be heard because there are less crowds, and we have all seen that television we can hear when the games are played in empty stadia. We can hear what is being said. Should Ajinkya Rahane have walked out? Just stage a protest and walk out and tell the security, unless these jerks are removed from the ground, we are not taking field.
I think they can handle it in a better way. That's what let's not affect this the game that we're playing. I think now the thing starts. Now the Ajinkya Rahane, the coach, the management, and the BCCI, now they have to take it seriously. I think this should not affect the game. That's what I feel as a cricketer. I feel the cricket has to be played the way it has to be played. But this thing now, after the game is done, end of day, we should take it seriously, and we should take it till this this has been addressed in the strictest way. That's what I feel. Now BCCI should not let loose of it. They should make sure that this very strong message has to go to Cricket Australia, and ICC should back it.
Deep, your take on this?
Sorry, Boria. Nick.
Listen, for me, it's not a BCCI issue. It is not a BCCI issue. It is not a BCCI issue. It is not a Cricket Australia issue. It's an issue which the sporting world, or the whole world for that matter, is trying to get rid of. So absolute zero tolerance is what I'd say. Yes, as of now, Ajinkya, I don't think was in that position or whatever. Maybe he heard it, maybe he did not. But now that everyone is aware of it, I think from here on, it has to be zero tolerance. There is no two ways in my mind about it. As far as abusive language is concerned, that's a different thing. That is an absolutely different thing from a racial abuse, which is, again, not acceptable, can't justify it, and zero tolerance is what I say. And Norman was talking about one match ban, or Raju was talking about one match ban. People like that should be banned forever, not just in cricket fields, but just to sporting venues. You just ban for life anyone who's abusing someone racially. Just ban them for life to go to any sporting venues. That's it. I mean, zero tolerance is what I'd say.
Rajeshi, if this has to be stopped, we have seen these placards in every sporting venue, zero tolerance towards racism, etc., etc. Clearly, in our world, it continues. It continues in England in the football field. It continues in Australia in the cricket field. It continues. Tomorrow, when this Indian team takes field, today it has become a talking point. What should India do? I mean, if there is one abuse, should they walk out? Should they stage a protest? Should they mention it to the security guards? How should they react to what? I mean, this because clearly this is a violation of dignity. Pragyan has given a perspective. Deep has. What's your take on this?
No, because because it's
Yeah.
very evident that how does India protest? BCCI has to give a official letter, or they should take an official stance. And how it becomes more stricter, ICC has to back it. That is as simple as that. What happened in the Monkeygate? What happened? Cricket Australia took it up, and then ICC was informed. So there is a process. I feel players can inform BCCI, and BCCI has to take it up, saying that a country like Australia and people getting drunk and doing this is nonsense, because in a country like India with so much population, we managed to make sure nobody is racially abused. And
Okay.
when you're talking about Australia, they have to be strict on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
But Boria,
Rajeshi, your point. Yeah.
But Boria, suppose I think what you're saying is, suppose this is repeated tomorrow, there is a more personal abuse. I think the way forward is straight, right? Deep and Pragyan said, abusive words are said often on the field, but racial abuse, this is just crossing a massive line. Let's say if this happens again tomorrow, tomorrow, Ajinkya Rahane, the senior players, Cheteshwar Pujara, Rohit Sharma, Ashwin, they go to the umpires and say, we are not resuming play till those guys are thrown out of the stadium. Because what happens is, if a missile is thrown at a player, would a captain continue to play the game?
Good
Would a
point.
captain continue to play the game? And just because it is not hurting you physically, do you take racial abuse over and over again?
Good point.
I don't think that should
Can I-
happen.
Boria, Raj, I'm sorry to jump into this, but again, let me emphasize on this. This is not an issue only for BCCI. That's an issue for the sporting world, for the cricketing world. So it's not just about BCCI stepping in. It's a question which needs to be addressed by everyone together. It can't be BCCI protesting and the formal letters and all that. That will happen. I understand the process, but this is an issue which needs to be taken up seriously and together by the whole world per se. But at this point in time, in this context, Cricket Australia and BCCI together.
Got it. Good points. Good points by all my panelists. Now to just, we've got 6 minutes more to the other two issues that I wanted to bring to you, because a lot of you have asked. Pragyan Ojha, Rishabh Pant's fine, but Ravindra Jadeja's gone. From what I know, dislocation, possible fracture, clearly rules him out. How does India cope with it? Is this a telling blow? Can India cope? Your first thoughts.
It's a big blow, especially with the standing that we have today in the game, because we were missing him badly, and I think if it's a fracture, I doubt he's going to come back for this game. I know for sure if it's a fracture, he'll not be coming for the next game for sure. But this game, for somehow, if he can bowl, because it's a thumb, I don't know if he can manage or something, but we will miss him if he doesn't come in. But saying that, it will be a very big blow, because that balance that I was talking about with the bat and with the ball that he used to get, now the dynamics will change, because we will be losing one spinner, and then at the same time we have to look who's going to replace him in the batting lineup and how they're going to balance it. So I think this year the injuries have been in the front seat. Saying that, Rishabh, I think it's a very good news that there's nothing serious about it. He's good to go, but definitely it's a very big blow for India if Jadeja doesn't come.
Deep, same question to you. Jadeja,
Yeah, I mean,
gone. Yeah.
Jadeja is a blow and a half for me, because he's one guy who's contributing in all three factors. I mean, if I may use the cliched word 3D player, and especially the fourth and the fifth day, where obviously his bowling would be a lot more important for India on a surface which is deteriorating. So it's a blow and a half. Jadeja, I mean, still an innings to go, a batting innings to go, a bowling innings to go, and him obviously on the field. So huge blow, dislocation. Even if it's a dislocation, God forbid. I mean, hope it's not a fracture, but even if it's a dislocation, you're looking at him out of the last test as well. That's what I presume. Unfortunately, like I said, I mean, it's a huge blow as far as Bishop. That's good news that he can bat. And yeah, I mean, obviously we would need everyone possible to get out of this rut that we are in this match.
Okay, Rajoshi, Deep said, let me just give the news points again. Ravindra Jadeja, from what we know, certain dislocation, possible fracture, reports awaited any moment now. Rishabh Pant's scans have come, reports of the scans have come, no major damage. I'm told he can possibly bat, not possibly bat, will take the field on day 5 if need be and will bat for India. So your thoughts on both these developments?
Rishabh Pant. Rishabh Pant is certainly is happier news, obviously. But you from also what you said, Boria, he is still in pain, right? The scans have fortunately shown he doesn't have a fracture. Riddhiman is obviously in the field, replacing him as wicketkeeper. With Jadeja, it's a massive blow. For me, in the first innings, he actually got a 5-4, including that run out of Steve Smith. His batting, his fielding, his bowling, missing him for these 2 days. And look at the misfortunes for the Indian team. They missed Umesh. Thankfully, we pulled it off in Melbourne. But this is a huge blow. This was the conditions are now almost tailor-made for Jadeja to have exploited. But it is what it is. And hopefully it's not a fracture, so he can be available for the last test match, hopefully.
We'll break whether it's a fracture or not on Sports Today. As you will agree, all of the news points have been broken on Sports Today over the last 3 hours. Every possible news from the Indian tour of Australia, thanks to Norman, thanks to all my panelists, have been broken. Norman, tomorrow you will be at the ground. If there is racist abuse, take it up with the security, take it up with your people, take it up with officials, because this has to stop. All of us, you, me, Deep, Pragyan, Rajarshi, each one of us will have to play a part. So your final closing thoughts, Norman. This is a disgrace for sport, not for these spectators. It's a disgrace for what we call the gentleman's game.
Look, there were 2 points I wanted to bring up. Firstly, Nick Hockley, the interim CEO, and Sean Collins, who is in fact the head of both integrity and security, both came to the side of the ground and spoke to Indian management. So there was evidence of some clear attempts by Cricket Australia to get this sorted when it happened. The lack of action by security was more the issue for me. SCG have a sophisticated system of security. They can look right down to the nose hairs of a person. So they'll be able to identify videos overnight as to exactly who the perpetrators are, literally to lip sync what they were saying. So there should be some action. If there's anything that's happened, they have the tape footage to be able to act on it.
Excellent. I mean, so if that is the case, we will say we need action. If that is the case, we need these people to be pulled up, prosecuted as per law, based on the law of the land. That's all we demand, because this is not about Siraj, not about an Indian. This is about our sport being violated, about human dignity and human respect being violated, and that is not tolerated in any part of the world. We wouldn't tolerate that in the United States. We wouldn't tolerate that in Australia. On that note, to all my panelists, thank you very much. Not the best day for India on and off the field, not the best day for Australia in terms of what happened in Sydney at the Sydney Cricket Ground, one of the hallowed stadiums of world cricket. Hopefully tomorrow will be a better day. Thanks for watching Sports Today. As you know, all important news. So do subscribe and do ring the notification bell, because we continue to bring you the best coverage from India's tour of Australia. Thanks for watching.